Okay, so this is the instructional video for the 2006 Mooveo on the Renault base. So I'll work my way around the outside, then proceed to the inside. So we'll start off with the cab, this being left-hand drive. The bonnet catch is just there. I'll just lift the bonnet with the catch that's underneath here. So under the bonnet, we've got power steering fluid, washer fluid, coolant, the oil fill is just there, the dipstick just here, brake fluid. If you ever need to jump start this vehicle, the battery's housed underneath the passenger seat, I think, but to jump start it, the positive terminal goes on there, and then the negative terminal goes on there, so that's your earth. So the jump's from the front here, but the battery isn't under the bonnet, it's underneath the passenger seat. So working around the vehicle here, you've got the fresh water fill here. That's just filled with a hose pipe, literally until it pours out. So you'll see water coming out of here, then you know that it's full. It's important that you drain that down in winter, particularly if it freezes, it'll expand inside the tank and it'll crack the tank. So there's a drain for that, and it's just housed underneath here. So it's that there. You need a pair of pliers just to go on onto that there and turn it round until the water flows out of here. So that's how you're draining down the fresh water tank. Next thing along here, we've got the vent for the boiler. So if you've got the boiler working on gas, it needs to vent through this here. Now on this is a cover. It's just a winter cover to stop debris, when you're travelling on the road. It stops debris getting into there. This needs to be removed in order to get the boiler working, because it's got a sensor on it that if it senses that there's exhaust gas that isn't escaping from here, the boiler won't ignite. So to remove that, you push in at the bottom there and pull back with your fingers. So when it's operational, whenever you're using the boiler, that's how the vent should look. So I've replaced that back on there. You will get steam and exhaust coming from this when the boiler's being used on gas. Next one along is the gas locker. Now this, the previous owner or owners have fitted it with refillable gas bottles. Now the way that this works is that they're filled from a filling station or a gas supply merchant, and it's filled via that inlet there. Now with that, if you go abroad, they use different adapters to the ones that are in the UK. The UK one just literally screws straight into that. But if you want the European adapters, so they'll have a different one in different European countries, those are the adapters that are just in there to allow you to fill it in different European countries. So to fill that, the cover needs to be taken off, and then it just literally screws into there. You can't overfill this, it'll only allow you to fill these bottles to 80%. On the bottles, it's got an indication to tell you how full each individual bottle is. The gas supply is turned on and off via these taps here. So you can see that one is full. And again, turn on and off the gas supply via the taps on top of the bottles. There is what's called a changeover valve here. So what that'll do is it'll automatically change over to which bottle is full. As this is getting empty, it'll change over to this one here as that one's becoming empty. So you can see that arrow there will slowly start to move over to the side, but that one does need filling. Now this is the regulator, so it's already got an inline regulator, so you don't need to worry about the gas pressure. So that's where you're filling it, and it comes into the bottles, fills it to 80%, and that's your changeover valve there. So that's your gas system. The locker on the back here is the toilet waste cassette. So open that up. There's an indication inside to tell you when this needs emptying, but you will be able to see it. It'll become clear when I show you the toilet operation inside. So to empty this, you pull in the cassette out by lifting up that tab there, slide this cassette out. So this would then be what's full of the toilet waste. You empty this by taking this funnel, unscrewing the cap, taking that off, and then you literally, it's got a handle on the front there, you just pour that away until the waste comes out. As you're pouring away, press this button here, that lets air in as the liquid is coming out. This needs the chemical put into it, so to do that you slide this back and then open the valve via that handle there, and then you pour the chemical into this, put a little bit of water into the bottom of it, and what the chemical does is it breaks down all the solids and gets rid of the smells. So to put this back in, close that back up, slide that forward, put your funnel back on and slide this back into the cassette. Now that valve has got to be closed before it'll slide back in, and if it's not closed on the inside on the toilet, you won't get the cassette out. So don't force the cassette out, you'll damage the mechanism on it. Just going back to the filler here, so that's how you open the cap up, just a quarter of a turn. All of the handles are the same, so what you do, you see how it's moving that there like that, close it up, turn it a quarter of a turn, use the key to lock it and then push it in. Okay, so we've got the key here, locking it, push that in and it remains locked, and that's the same for all the handles on the garage as well. So working around towards the back, this model's fitted with a bike rack. The way this works is push those up like that, slide the bike rack down, the bikes sit onto these rails here. It is missing some of the clasps, which I'll get for you. Now they go over the wheel. When they're fitted, it'll become clear. These arms then come down and locate onto the crossbar so this longer one is the outer vehicle, outer bike, and then this one goes onto the inner bike, and then the middle bike is supported via the two bikes on either side of it. So you've got a ladder on there to gain access to the roof. It's just clipped on there, so if you ever need to clean the roof, that's how you get up onto there. So working around to the garage area, in here we've got silver screens. Now what they do is they go, so that'll go over the windscreen of the motorhome. So you've got it silver side out, and can you see the suckers, they stick onto the windscreen, so that reflects the sun in hot weather, and it also insulates it in cold weather, and that's what darkens the windscreen area for nighttime operation. And then they go on the side, it's exactly the same system, but they go on the side windows, so that on the passenger and driver's door. This is used to make up the bed, which we'll come to in a second. So that's where your leisure battery is housed, so that's what's powering the 12 volt system. Should you not be plugged into mains, then you're reliant on your battery, but when you're plugged into mains, your charger unit, which is here, charges up that leisure battery and keeps the battery topped up. It's also fitted with a solar panel, but that actually just looks after itself. It's regulated so it won't overcharge the battery. You've got 12 volt fuses here, so each individual fuse correlates to a 12 volt appliance in the vehicle. So should you get a fault with a 12 volt appliance, be it the pump or the control panel, whatever it may be, this is the first port of call to check the fuses here. Next to that, you've got a circuit breaker for the mains supply, so that is like a mains fuse. If you have a problem with the mains supply and that's in the down position, then you know that that's the fault, so it's just a circuit breaker for that, should there be a short circuit on the mains supply. So that is the operational position. There's other fuses here, that is the main charger fuse, and there's another bank of fuses there, but they're your main 12 volt fuses. That is the regulator for the solar panel, and that's also got a fuse on it. So should you discover that the solar panel isn't operational, probably that fuse is be the first diagnosis point. You've got toolkit in there, which is the spare wheel is mounted underneath here on a carrier just underneath the vehicle. Okay, so this garage area here is it creates a storage area, and it's lowered like that, and then that's the mattress for the bunk that's inside. Here you've got a winder for the awning. I'll just pull the awning out slightly. There is a separate video for the awning. It's not the exact model, but it'll show you the operation of how the awning works. So I will just wind the awning out slightly, but I'll also send you the video for how a new awning works. But as I say, the operation is basically the same. Okay, so the winder goes into that there, and if you just turn it quarter of a turn, it releases it. And if you turn it a quarter of a turn the other way, it allows you to leave the awning winder hanging like that. So you wind the awning out, you can see it. I just wanted to show it you operational basically. And then it's got legs in here that if you just push it, the spring loaded, so you just push it that way, and these legs come down like that, and then they've got a clasp there to tighten them. So what I would do is wind it out slightly, angle the legs slightly out like that, and then continue to wind via the handle until the awning comes all the way out. These arms aren't designed to go fully straight, they are designed to have a bend in them, so don't wind until they are straight. They're designed to have a bend in them to create an elbow joint, which gives you more strength. So to wind that back in, you just go in the opposite direction, winding that in until the front of this awning here is flush again with the side of the awning housing. Just as a note with the awning, as you can imagine, if the wind gets underneath that piece of canvas, it will damage the awning. So in high wind conditions, or even a slight breeze can damage it. You've got to have really fair weather to be using that awning. It is a sun canopy rather than a weather protector. So these are the blinds that we talked about. Sorry, it's the blind above the top, but this is how the blinds operate. So you've got a fly screen that comes down like that. So as you're coming down with it, just angle that in, and there's little hooks. You can probably see in there that there's a hook that it hooks onto like that. So you're bringing it right down and then sort of clasping it in. So that awning at the top one there is on order. There's another one at the front, but we discussed those, so we'll send those on to you when we get those. Same arrangement with these handles here, so you're just turning it until they correspond with the catch there, and then you lock those and push them in. So with the key, lock those and push them in. So moving around on this side of the motorhome again. This is where the mains supply would come in. So what you do with that is you pull that out like that, and then there's a mains cable that hooks onto that. You can see where the little lip is there. The mains cable corresponds onto that. It's got a little lid that sort of clips over the top of there. So you with the mains cable, you lift the lid up, and that lid slides over the top of there. Sorry, just to come back to this side of the motorhome. The drain there that I showed you, that's actually the waste tank. The fresh water tank's inside. So when the waste indicator inside is telling you that it's full, that's where you're draining the waste, not the fresh. Okay, so I've just come inside the vehicle while we're on the subject of water drainage. Underneath this forward-facing dinette seat here, where the seat belts are, if you take the cushion off, there's this cap here, and that's for the fresh water tank. Now, to drain that down, and it is important that you do that in winter, because as I said, it will if the water freezes in there, it'll expand and it'll crack the tank. There's a tiny little plug here Now, the way you drain that down is to reach into the tank with your hand, and just to the left, there's a location point for that. I'm going to drain it down and put the plug back in. Now, to drain that down, in order to see it, you're probably going to need a torch to actually get into it. So you're probably better running the water through the taps rather than putting your hand in into a tank of water. So I'll drain the tank down, put the plug back in. But as I say, to locate that, you will actually probably need a torch to shine it in there. So when you replace this cap, if you're ever draining the tank down, make sure that that is really sealed tightly, because what you're doing when you're filling the tank, you're pressurizing this tank, so the water, when it reaches the top, will try and find a way out of there. So as long as that's fully closed, then when you're filling the tank, you won't have a problem. Just housed there is the water pump, but I'll show you the controls for that in a second. Okay, so I'm inside the vehicle now. I'll work my way from the back to the front. It's probably the easiest way of doing it. So you've got your shower unit, just a curtain that pulls across, single mixer tap. So when you first fill the water tank up with water, there'll obviously be air in the pipes from the water tank to this tap. So what you need to then do is purge the air out of the system, and you do that by just opening the tap. So open it onto the cold side and switch it on, and then also do the same on the warm side, so switch it to hot and then turn it on, and wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out of all the taps. So this one, the one in the kitchen, and also the bathroom one, which is just behind me. And when you get a pure flow of water coming out of all of those, you know that the system is purged, and you've got all the air out of the pipes, and you've just got water in the pipe system. Okay, so working around towards the toilet. So I showed you how to empty that. So what happens is that blade there is the one that I was showing you how to open and close on the cassette. Now that can be done, I'll show you there, that can be done from the toilet side of things as well. So that's opening and closing that valve. Okay, so the way to use the toilet is open that valve up like that, use the toilet, and the flush is that button there. Now you need the pump switched on for that to work. There's an indication there to tell you when the tank is full, but you can actually see because that's directly into that tank. So the way to use it is open it up, use the toilet, press the flush, and then close this valve back up. When you're driving, obviously you want that closed, because otherwise you've got liquid swirling around in here and it can go over the side. So make sure that that's closed as you're driving. Taps on the bathroom, straightforward. Again, like I showed you on the shower, you need to purge the system. So put it onto hot, open it up, and then put it onto the cold, open it up, and wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out of there, and then all the air is out of the pipes. Okay, so the bunk system. That's the other side of that is the garage that we were just in. Okay, so that bunk there folds down to create the sleeping bunk for the bottom, and then you've got the one on the top with a ladder that clips on, and it's got a cargo net here, so that just clips onto there. If you're storing things in there, it'll keep those safe, and it'll stop you falling out of bed as well. Okay, so on this side of the motorhome you've got an aerial that just, you unscrew that, push this bar up on the bottom there, and that's extending up through the roof and giving you a better signal for your television. Make sure that that's down before you set off, otherwise you've got a big pole extending up through the roof. So this is your wardrobe, you've just got hanging space in there. So working towards the sink, again, same situation, you just need to switch that on to hot and cold, and wait until you get pure flow of water coming out of there. 2-ring hob, doesn't have an igniter, you'll need matches or one of those igniter sticks for this. Exactly the same situation as with the water. When you first switch your gas supply on, not as important when you've got refillable bottles, but it still will need to be done. You need to switch this on, light it, and wait until you've got a pure or a flame on the hob that doesn't go out, so then you know that the gas has been piped through the system and you've got rid of all the air in the system. Same operation on all the blinds. All the blinds and the fly screens are all the same as on the garage that I showed you outside. Right, in here, on this cupboard under here, is where the boiler is housed. Okay, so this is the hot water boiler. It's important that that is drained down, so you can see there that that holds 10 litres of water. So that's the heating of the hot water. It's really, this is the most important bit. If water's left in there in winter and it freezes, it will crack that tank and it'll crack all these pipes. So you need to get all the water out of the boiler, and that's the drain to do so. That's now in the open position. That's in the closed and operational position, so that must be in that position before you'll be able to draw water through these pipes here. If you try and switch the hot water tap on with that in that position, all that'll happen is all the water that you're trying to draw through the tap will just go straight through out of an overflow underneath the vehicle onto the floor. So to use the motorhome, it's got to be in that position there. Okay, so moving towards the front then, you've got your fridge freezer. Freezer at the top, fridge underneath. So these are the controls for it here. To switch it on and off, it's that middle button. Okay, so then you on this side you've got your operational switch. So whichever you're selecting, basically your power source here. So you've got that's a picture of a battery, so that's coming off the engine battery, so that's the engine alternator that's powering that. Now it won't get cold on that function. You've got to get it cold first at home, and then that is like a transit cooling, so you get it cold for an hour at home first before you set off, and that'll keep it cool as you're traveling. But you do have to switch it over to that, otherwise the fridge will start to warm up. So if you're traveling with food prepared in there, you know, for a long journey, then switch it onto that function. It'll run on gas as well, so off the gas bottles it'll go into automatic ignite. If you haven't purged the system like I showed you on the hob, what will happen is you'll get a picture of a spanner there that's showing you that it hasn't ignited. I think in this case it will, because we've just switched the gas on. So that's running on gas, and then that is electric. Okay, so we've got a picture of a spanner there. We're not connected to electric, so that's the reason for that. So it's showing you that it won't operate on mains electric. That's your water. That's your temperature. So that's relevant. You need to be selecting a temperature which is relevant to the ambient temperature outside. So if it's really hot, you want the fridge to work hard. So you want it in maximum. If it's cold outside and you're away in winter, then you only need it on one of these two buttons here, otherwise it'll ice up. So when it's really, really hot, or if you're abroad, or you know it's a hot day, then make the fridge work hard. Cool. If it's cool weather outside, then only have it on a low setting. Okay, so we're working our way towards the front of the motorhome here now. This is the heating. So this deals with the heating of the motorhome. Okay, so it's like almost like a gas fire. You're switching this on, turning it round. Okay, so to operate the fire, so to run it on gas, which is what it runs on, you're pressing this button in here, and you'll hear it start to ignite by clicking. So turn it round to 1 or 2 on the dial there. Keep it pressed in. And when the noise, when you hear the clicking noise stop, you'll see a pilot light through this little gap here. So at that stage, just keep this pressed in for, let's say, 10 seconds. Keep your eye on this pilot light through this inspection hatch here. And then once you count to 10, release this and make sure that the pilot light stays in here. And then you know that the fire is ignited. You can then turn this round to the appropriate position depending on how hot you want it to be. So that denotes your temperature. Okay, so then what happens is from there, let's get into focus. So this deals with the what they call blown air. Okay, so you've got, this is the function switch here. So you've got, that's in the middle, it's off. If you click this over to A, which is auto, the fan will automatically blow at an appropriate speed to keep the temperature. So in the middle again, it's off. That's manual operation, so that will blow at a speed that you set here. Well, you can hear that or not, but the fan's blowing there. So if you wanted to get it really hot really quickly, you'd put that onto 10 and then switch this onto manual and put it onto the fastest setting. If you just want to keep the temperature maintained in the evening, overnight, then just put it onto A, and that fan will blow, as I said, an appropriate speed for the temperature inside the vehicle. That blown air system is ducted through various outlets, such as this one here on the bunk. You can blank that one off. So if you didn't want this area to be as hot, you can blank that off, and the fan will then blow through the other ducts at a higher speed. So those blown air ducts are located in various positions. There's one in the bathroom, there's one there, there should be one in the dinette area. In fact, this one here is a separate fan, so that's is heating from the coolant on the engine. So that changes your temperature, and that adjusts your fan speed. So as you're driving, you can have that going, because you shouldn't really travel with gas connected. So that's a heater for while you're travelling. Just as we move further towards the front of the vehicle, TV cabinet in here, and that's where the television aerial comes out. So that's just a booster box for the television aerial. So just a normal coax on there. So in the front here, the table forms a base for the bed. So this area makes a bed here, should you need to use it. So the bed arrangement is that you've got one at the bottom here, one at the top. This will actually sleep two here. So you've got, I'll make the bed up and then I'll show you how that's configured. Basically what happens is the table, this table here, drops down and is on an elbow joint. So that bridges the gap here, and then there's a folding mechanism underneath that cushion that folds over to bridge the gap across there. But I'll make that bed up and show you that now. So I've taken the table off, so the table unclips, and then this button here, so that you press that button and then this elbow joint comes down on the table, and then the table sits on the lower rail. You see there's two rails there, so the table then clips to the lower rail, sits on this groove here and bridges this gap across here. There's a little locating lug there. I showed you that little leg in the garage. That's where that leg sits, just to support the table in the corner. So that's the table in position. I've then folded underneath there, take that cushion off this side cushion here, and then folded that across, and that bridges the gap to make the bed up. So that's the bed made up. You just use the cushions to make this temporary bed up here. That's the little leg I was talking about. I've not fixed it in position, but that goes on the other side of the table there, just to support the table in that corner over there. When you're removing the table, just a quick note, what you need to do is lift it up first and then lift it off that rail, which is over there. There are two little catches that need to be, you need to make sure that they're pushed all the way back, so they go underneath that rail there, so they fix the table in position. So you can see if you push those forward, it just slides across there and fixes the table in position. So that's how you remove the table. For the swivel seats on the cab, there's just a catch. I think it's on the front on these. Just let me check. It's just down the side there. So that little button there, you pull it that way, and that releases what they call captain's chairs to allow them to swivel. And that's the same on the other side. That's that's on the passenger side. Okay, so the final thing just to show you is the control panel. So basically that switch there in essence switches the vehicle on and off, so all the lights etc. Are operated off that main switch. This here is the water pump. So what I was talking about in terms of draining the air out of the water system, you won't get any water out of your taps unless that pump is switched on. Now I would probably recommend leaving that pump off and just switching it on and off as and when you need water. You can leave it switched on and it operates on a pressure switch, but those pressure switches can be affected by temperature. So what it means is if it's left on, if that pump is left on during the evening, you can find that it sort of tries to run during the night and it can wake you up. So you can leave it switched on and there's no problem with that, but I would leave it switched off if I were you. Now don't run that pump, don't let the pump run if there's no water in the tank. So if you've got the valves, the drainage valves open and that pump is switched on, that pump will be trying to pressurize the system, and all it's doing is pushing the water out of the drain valves, which I showed you. So there's one on the boiler, one on the freshwater tank, so that all that's doing is pushing the water out of those drainage valves, and if you run the pump with no water going through it, it will burn the pump out. Next one along here, so you've got a picture of a motorhome with a battery in the back. That is what's known as your leisure battery. So if you press that button up, it's showing you that your leisure battery is in fair condition. Next one down is a picture of the motorhome with the battery in the front, so that's your engine battery. That's in good condition. The reason that the leisure battery is showing fair is because we've got the 12 volt switched on, so there's a drain across that battery, and we're not plugged in. Next one along here is the top one is your fresh water situation. So there's no fresh water in there. I'm pressing that button. Normally that would illuminate up, but I've already drained the system down as I showed you. And then the bottom one is the waste water situation, and that again, it's there's no water in there. So it goes in increments of quarters, so 25%, 50%, 75, 100%. They're not deadly accurate, those, but it does give you a fair indication of what levels your water are at. Just a quick one last thing, the table does have an extension on it. That's the extension part there that I showed you. It clips into these two little lugs here, and then it's got two supporting arms, if you can see those there, and then they pull out to support that extension to the table. So if you're sitting here where I am, then you can get everybody around the table just with an extension on it. Okay, so that concludes the demonstrational video. If you've got any questions, if you want to raise those before collection, but if not, I look forward to seeing you on the day, and I can answer any interim questions you may have on the day you collect. Hope that was informative, and I look forward to seeing you on the day you collect your new moto.